Should be a little red dot there in front of the camera. Okay. We're on the air. It is September the 14th, 2011, and I'm talking to Ken Stetson at his home in Inglewood, Florida. He's agreed to talk to me for publication. Is that right, Ken?
That's correct.
My name is Don Moore. I'm a newspaper reporter for the Charlotte Sun Daily newspaper, Port Charlotte, Florida. I'm shooting this DVD for the Library of Congress Veterans History Project and for notes for a story that will appear in the Sun newspaper. Ken, let's just start off with, where were you born?
I was born on April 18th, 1921,
Okay.
in Woodland, California.
Okay, how old are you?
I'm 90 years old now.
Boy, you are looking great for 90 years old.
Feel good.
Hey, that's the way to do it. How come you're 90 years old and feel good? What's your secret here?
My secret is
Fly B29.
living.
Okay. All right. So what was happening when the war, what were you doing when the war started?
Just a little background. I was raised in a small town in North California, Dunnigan, and
Okay.
my father distributed gasoline for the Standard Oil Company.
Okay.
And he had to take gasoline out to the rice fields where the airplanes were now sowing rice.
Okay.
That's how I got interested in airplanes.
Sowing rice. They were from the air?
From being with my dad out at the rice fields. But I also got a ride in a real old airplane, a Lincoln Page that one of the farmers had learned to fly and built the front end of it for sowing rice. And I was 10 years old, and me and my buddy, he landed in my grandfather's farm, and he said, would you guys, I think he stopped to get a beer. You guys like to go for a ride? And I said, sure we would. So
describe the airplane.
we get in the cockpit where the rice bin is, and he takes off and takes us for a ride over town. And that was my first airplane ride.
What year are we talking about? 1930?
Oh, 10 years, it'd be 1931.
31.
32, somewhere like that.
Okay, so
and it was
got hooked on airplanes.
An OX-5 engine and a Lincoln Page.
Lincoln Page.
It was
a biplane?
Biplane, right.
Fabric covered. Fabric covered biplane. It had fabric on the wings.
Oh yes, it was a fabric airplane.
Yeah,
and
sure.
he had to crank it up. Now an OX-5 engine was a really old engine, but it was the engine of the time.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so what happened after that?
After that, of course, I wanted to graduate from high school in 1939, and I wanted to
fly airplanes.
Fly airplanes, okay, and. So I went to San Jose State. At that time, you had to have a 2-year college education to get into the Air Corps. And so they had a program just for that. I went to San Jose State. They also had a flying club. For $100, I was able to join the flying club, and I started flying, and one of the interesting things, the head of the department took me up in a Duranca Chief, that was one of the airplanes of the club, and it was my first flight at San Jose State. Another interesting person was George O'Hara. We called him the Flying Irishman. He happened to be a Japanese American who belonged to our club also. So,
and what was the school again? What school? What college?
San Jose State.
San Jose State.
In San Jose.
Yeah.
So anyway, while I was there, I went through the first CPT course and the advanced CPT course, ending up with enough hours for commercial license. So, but I would go to Moffett Field and take while I was at San Jose, and take the physical, but I'd flunk it all the time because the blood pressure was too high. I happened to be there when on laying back on a bed
Yeah.
when Jimmy Stewart was picking up his orders, because he had just passed, not his orders, but his physical information.
Yeah.
He had just passed his physical, and
Okay.
he was off into the Air Corps. And you know, Jimmy became a brigadier general.
He was a big star by that time.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd done Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Yeah.
He'd done 2 or 3 other movies that made him. So
Yeah.
he was a wheel.
That's right.
Okay.
So that's how far back I
Okay.
dated, and you couldn't miss his language, you know, the way
yeah.
Jimmy talked,
Yeah.
you know.
All right.
And
So you did you?
So I
pass-
end up flunking out 2 times. I took Nebutol, which was supposed to reduce your blood pressure, but they didn't tell me at the at school that it wears out, and
Oh,
so
okay.
I didn't take enough, and so I flunked it.
Yeah.
Well, I had a friend that I was in college with that was actually he was from Canada, but he was this British subject
Yeah.
that never his parents never became U.S. citizens.
Yeah.
Well, Kelly finally decided that he would, if the Alien Act was
Yeah.
enacted,
Yeah.
so aliens could become part of our military.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we found out that the British school would probably accept us, and I
Yeah.
took a whole bunch of
Yeah.
Nebutol,
Yeah.
passed the physical. I went to sleep while he was taking me my blood pressure.
Okay.
So Kelly and I both took off and went to primary, basic, and advanced in one of in the British, and this was where we were, a Lend-Lease program.
Right. Where
Yeah.
was this in Canada?
Down in El Centro, California.
Oh. Okay.
Now, we were supposed to end up being pilot officers
Right.
when we
With the
graduated,
RAF.
but we heard from our senior guys that they were making you flying sergeant, and we said, the heck with this. We found out that this program up at Mather Field for service pilots. I took my Nebutol, passed the physical this time,
Right.
and we joined as civil servants.
Okay.
We were getting $300 a month, believe it or not.
A lot of money.
Oh, in 1941, 42, that kind of money, unbelievable.
So what were you doing as a service pilot? What were you flying?
We ended up
C-47s?
I went through primary, basic, and advanced, and twin engine.
Yeah.
They shipped us 13 of us from class off to Roswell, New Mexico, where we flew in the bombardier school. We flew AT-11s in the
Okay.
bombardier school as civil servants until our commissions came through.
Okay.
My commission came through in November 1st, 1942,
Yeah.
and from then on, we heard about the possibility of the B-29s.
Right.
We had an S on our wings.
Yeah.
To get rid of the S, we went to the operations officer. He gave us a flight test. We got rid of the S. We were able to leave and go into the B29 program. By that time, we had lots of flying experience.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. So what year are we talking about now? 43?
We're talking about, let's see, probably 44
Okay.
when we started that operation. My
Okay.
first
right.
flight.
All right. So where did you go to B29 training?
What we did was we first had to go to B-17 training.
Oh, okay.
So we did that in Sebring, Florida.
Sebring, Florida.
Okay. And so we went through B-17. I remember flying over Lake Okeechobee
Yeah,
and
yeah.
flying around Miami, and so that was okay. The B-17 was a great airplane.
Yeah.
We went from the B-17 to our training program in Kansas. Okay.
For B-29.
The Battle of Kansas. Yeah, there was B-29 out. That's when I first contacted the B-29.
In Kansas.
And we had B-17s and B-29s
Okay.
that we flew. Now,
Boeing had a factory in Kansas, didn't they?
well, they had in Wichita.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
my original airplane came out of the Wichita factory, my B-29,
Okay.
But they were building them in Georgia, and they were building them in Seattle, of course.
Okay.
It was a tremendous program.
Okay.
Well, the first ones, were off the drawing board awful fast.
Okay.
And so we used to take off in those things, and engines weren't getting the cooling that they should be
Yeah,
getting.
all kinds of engine trouble.
And we'd take off and dodge aeroderrics through Kansas, pulling one engine back and cooling it up, put it forward,
Yeah.
and go to the next one.
Yeah.
But we actually finished our training with both we bombed the island just north of Cuba. That was our long distance haul going
Okay,
from
the Isle of Pines.
going to
Okay.
that little island out
Okay,
there.
just north
I
of
guess that
Cuba.
was when we were friends with Cuba.
Okay.
Okay.
Where were you flying out of? Flying out of Kansas?
Yeah.
Woo-hoo.
I don't know how I had this. Great Bend is where our operation was. There were three places in Kansas, but Great Bend, Kansas was where
Great
my
Bend, how do you
B29 operation was.
Spell it for me.
Great Bend,
I can spell the great all right.
B-E-N-D,
B-E-N-D, Great Bend. Okay.
Great Bend, Kansas.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And that was when I joined the 874th 498th Bomb Group. Okay?
So this is 1944 now.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so then what happened after that?
Well, from December 44th to May 27th, I was stationed on Saipan.
Okay.
And flew 30 missions over Japan.
All right, well now how did you get from, you take that B-29 with the girl on the nose, you flew that from Great Bend to Saipan?
Right. But all of those pictures were done on Saipan.
Okay, so tell me about the flight over. I mean, that must have been a hell of a flight.
That trip was.
Holy heck!
I'll tell you what.
You're looking at a copy of your flight log.
Yeah, this is a flight log.
Okay. The trip was, what was the date?
We flew from December the 2nd, 1944.
Yeah.
We flew from Mather Field
In Kansas.
Shakedown. We flew from Kansas to Mather Field. Okay.
In
And
California.
that was 5 hours and 30 minutes.
Okay.
The next trip was on December 5th, Mather Field to John Rogers in Hawaii.
Okay.
And that trip was 11 hours, okay, at that time. Then John Rogers to Kwajalein to Saipan, and that Kwajalein to Saipan was 13 hours. So
that was about as far as you could
that
fly.
was 12/9. I landed on Saipan, okay, December 9th
On Saipan.
on Saipan, 1944, okay.
Okay. How you flew some bombing raids, some firebomb raids over Tokyo?
That's correct.
How far was like 1,400 miles, wasn't it, from Saipan to Tokyo?
Yeah. My average flight time to Japan was around 15 hours. The longest I was ever out was 18 hours, and that was my last mission. And they softened it up for us that we did mostly weather gathering.
All right, where were you flying on 18 hours? From Saipan to where?
Saipan, all over the east side of Japan.
Okay.
I could see Korea from the altitude we were. We were probably around 28,000 feet.
Okay.
Okay, and we flew over Sasebo, and that's where we did see a lot of Akak, but it was below us. So
How do you spell that?
Sasebo. B-O.
Yeah.
Sasebo.
S-A-S-E-B-O.
Yeah.
Sasebo, yeah.
Yeah. And so then from then on it was.
And you flew 30 missions. What was your last mission? What date?
Well, the last day was May 27th,
Okay.
1945.
Okay, May.
Uh,
Okay. That's about 3 months before they quit.
Yeah. By the time when I left, after we had done all of those firebombs,
Yeah,
I thought we had them beat. I
Yeah.
really did.
yeah,
And so when I got home, and then we heard about the big ones,
Yeah.
the nukes,
yeah.
then I knew it possibly had to be the end. Okay. So
Well, take me. You said you got 2 DFCs.
yes, the
Uh,
first DFC was for flying 5 out of 10 days, doing firebombs on Japan, and we were Tokyo, Tokyo, Nagoya, Kobe, Tokyo, and Nagoya.
well,
We just repeated those.
all right, but your first mission was plenty exciting. Tell me about it.
Well,
What was the date on your first mission?
what's that now?
The date. What was your date on the first mission?
My first mission to Nagoya.
How you spell?
Nagoya is Nag
OYA.
OYA. Okay, and that was December 18th, 1944.
Okay.
And-
So how many hours?
And that mission was 13 hours and 50 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
And then I went back to Nagoya on the 22nd of December, and that was 13 hours and 50 minutes. The first one was 13:25, the next one was 13:50, and then the next one to Nagoya was January 3rd, and that was 15 hours.
All right. Well, tell me about
And
your
these were high altitude bombings.
30,000 feet.
Yeah. Well,
28,000.
28 to 30, somewhere in that
All right, so tell me
area.
about your first mission. Tell me about your first mission.
Well, the first mission was in a formation, and we got attacked by Jap fighters.
How many bombers in the formation?
Probably at that time, we probably in total was around 50 airplanes, is
Okay.
the most we were getting together at that time. But as new crews came, we kept increasing, and I think by the time I left, I think they were getting up to 450 to 500 airplanes.
All right, so what happened with being attacked by the Jap fighters on that first plane, that first mission?
Well, they put a slug in my central fire control system, and I couldn't fire back at them anymore. It was a little frustrating and a little scary for us. And I have to tell you that when the day we landed, and we were out and down at our Quonset huts,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
a bunch of officers were out with their helmets, washing their face and so forth, and a major approached me and told me how terrible it was over the Empire. He really says it really is scary, and that major refused to fly shortly after that.
No kidding.
Yeah, but that was my reception, how tough it was over that target. Well, I knew it was tough because when I was at Mather Field,
Yeah.
waiting to go over,
Right.
the San Francisco Chronicle printed a story. It turns out to be one of my service pilot guys,
Yeah.
Jimmy Dufford, that got rammed by a Jap fighter and knocked 2 engines out, and he made it all the way back to Saipan. That was the first one that did that. And that was in the Chronicle. So
And he was flying this Nagoya.
and we were not supposed to know where we were going. We were opening the orders after we got out 2 hours out the ocean. Well, we knew where we were going.
Yeah.
They had it in the paper.
Was he making the flight to Nagoya when he got the engines knocked out?
He may have been going to Tokyo.
Okay.
Target, I'll tell you what, Target 357 was Mitsubishi engine work.
And Nagoya.
That was Tokyo
okay.
yeah, right. Well, on the edge there. It was between those two.
So tell me what happened. You're flying along. When did you get all your guns knocked out? Was that early in the flight?
That was my first flight. Yeah, early in the flight. So I had to stay in formation, be protected by the rest of the airplanes, and we made it back home. Okay.
Well, I mean, it wasn't just an easy flight home. I mean, you had 4 engines. That was the thing you had going.
Yeah, I had all my engines going. Okay.
So you just had to stay in between everybody.
In the formation till you get up, till you get back over the coast. Yeah. And then you're on your own. Okay. You didn't fly formation after that.
What is it? 700 or 800 miles to back to base, isn't it, from the coast?
Oh yeah.
Like 700 miles.
Right. I had one experience on.
Did you have to land any time at Iwo Jima?
I made it all the way home by the skin of my skinny kid. Yeah. One time leaving, and I don't know. I've got a date here probably somewhere, but my navigator used to do a little sleeping. He should have been doing a shot while he could, because we flew in weather all the time, constant. There was always a front. Overcast, always over Japan. For high altitude bombing was not too successful. Okay. The fire bombing is what really put the end to that war.
All right. Well, give me. All right. So what happened on this flight? You said you were.
Well, we took a wrong course, actually, for home. Right. We saw on radar, because we had radar. Yeah. We saw what looked like a landmass. Yeah. Well, it turned out to be Bull Halsey's fleet on his way to Okinawa. Okay. I had to do a 90-degree turn. Right. And hopefully heading for Saipan. Right. It got to the pack where the fuel was so low that I had the crew start in planning what they were going to throw overboard for ditching, so that we could ditch if we have to. Well, eventually we picked up Saipan. It was wonderful, okay? And I cut an airplane out of the traffic pattern and landed. Yeah. When I landed, I lost one engine. Right. Then I lost other engine. Taxi. Had enough to taxi, enough fuel just to taxi to the hard stand.
And that was it.
Put the stick in the tank. Yeah. No fuel. Okay. So that's the closest I came. But otherwise, I made it the whole time.
What was your flight? Where were you bombing?
That. Probably. That was probably a Tokyo mission. A high altitude.
Tell me about.
But the first real low altitude fire strikes were March 9th, 1945.
Over Tokyo.
And we went Tokyo, and March 11th we went Nagoya. March 13th, we went to Osaka, and March 18th, we went back to Nagoya. That was my 5th. During those missions, we dropped 891 tons the first time, 950 tons the second time, 817 the third time, 975 tons the fifth time, okay, that I flew. Okay, I flew every other mission.
Okay, now tell me about LeMay when he got there. You guys were not doing real well on the bombing.
That's right.
You weren't hitting things.
High altitude was that was been the previous general. That was his thing. High altitude.
And so.
But what happened was we bomb on radar, but we never had good visibility. The targets always seemed to be covered with overcast. Okay. And you never got a real clear day.
Okay, so
then
LeMay gets here.
LeMay gets there from the 58th Wing from India, and he had some previous knowledge from Chiang Kai-shek's
Shanghai shaft, yeah.
talked about how the paper houses, the bamboo and so forth, that was the way to go. Now this is coming from the guy in China.
Yeah, right.
So LeMay got this idea in his head, and when we heard that he was talking about 8,000 feet, and 10,000 feet, and lower, I think I went over at 6,000 one time, okay, one of those missions.
Tokyo.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what, we'd start out at 10,000 feet and dive down to 6, so we'd be indicating 250 to 300 miles an hour with that B29.
Coming across
but they had already sent somebody ahead of time. Those were the heroes. Those guys that went out ahead in daylight and set the first fires. We had a target. And so by the time we got there, there was a fire going.
Yeah.
We dropped that load. We went up, you can't believe, because of the heat that's fired from there.
Yeah.
And we'd shoot right back up to 10,000 or 12,000 feet. And then go out over Chosey Point and go head for home. Okay. But that was at night, and so.
How long were you down on the deck bombing? I mean, the actual bombing time, maybe.
Well, in the beginning.
Yeah.
We didn't know the winds.
Right. Off of Fuji.
The winds were
200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we would be from the IP initial point. We would be a half an hour trying to get to the target.
Right.
Well, you know what happened during that time. All the guns could aim they wanted. The Jap fighters were unbelievable.
So you were fighting all these headwinds. You were fighting all the headwinds.
That's right. But when we went on those fire missions, when we
went down,
we were making speed over the target. Okay. But
all right, so
when you dropped it, you should do.
Well, what was your second DFC for?
That was flying those 5 out of 10.
Okay.
Every other day. You can imagine what the crews down on the ground were having to do to get those airplanes ready and get them loaded and get them fueled and take care of the damage.
Was that your first DFC?
First DFC was that. You got the second DFC for finishing 30 missions.
Okay, finishing 30 missions.
Yeah.
All right, so what else can you tell me? What other things happened that you remember? Oh, what about the name of your airplane? What was the name of your airplane?
Oh, the Tanaka Termite. That was I'll call it democratic.
Okay.
I let my crew members all come up with a name. Number one, they wanted a pretty girl painted on the airplane.
Right.
Okay, that was.
Yeah, it had to be.
Well, we had so many different ones I can't believe. But anyway, this. I think his name was Guillermo Hernandez. That was the artist. I thought it was a Marine that I'd given a pint of rum to paint that thing, and I think we paid $30 to have him.
Oh, wait a minute! You had a Marine come in and paint your girl?
Yeah, we thought it was, but it wasn't. It was Guillermo. He was from the photo lab, so he's the one that gave me that original picture. Okay. This picture that's ended up in Life magazine book, which I have a copy here.
Yeah.
See that? Was handed to me at 8.5 by 11.
Right.
By my artist. Okay.
Right. Okay. But what was his connection with the girl on the airplane?
He just had these.
He did.
He did a lot of them in my book here.
All right, so where did they come up with a name? What was that all about?
Okay, well that was my educated co-pilot, Charlie Pound, came up and said, we really ought to make it after that Japanese diplomat. Tanaka was the one that was, I believe, negotiating for peace.
When they dropped the bomb on Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, right. Okay. And so they decided that we would be the termite.
Okay, okay.
Tanaka termite.
Okay. All right, so...
It's kind of crazy, but...
Yeah, no, well, hey, that's...
There was a lot of good names, but there was a lot of crazy names, okay?
Well, I noticed also that Mrs. Roosevelt's edict didn't seem to get to you guys.
Yes, it did.
Oh,
it got
did?
there after I left.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And that's when they came up with this. Yeah, I guess we have some pictures of
spray painting the girls.
Yeah. We had to get rid of our girls, and
yeah. Well, that must have been a hoot, because they were tough on them in England. And the 8th Air Force bunch, I guess she got a look at some of the scantily clad young maidens on the thing, and she was really upset and told FDR, and the rest is kind of history.
You ought to take a look at some.
Yeah, I did. I saw them. Yeah. All right. So show me your picture, the one that appeared in life there in your book, right there beside you, right in front of you.
This one?
No, right there, right in front of you there.
Oh, that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hold it down a little bit. I'm shooting a picture here. Tell me about it here. Now your plane is up there somewhere. That one doesn't show your plane, but
that one is.
Yeah, there's your plane.
Up here.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you're out of firepower, flying in the middle of the thing over Fuji.
At first we were formation.
Yeah.
We had dropped our bombs.
Right.
My bomb bay doors wouldn't close automatically, and so the Japs started picking on us right away. So the formation hung in there with us.
The Japs started picking on it because your bomb bay door didn't close.
Yeah, because I was a cripple.
The equipment was
I was a cripple. They knew I couldn't fly as fast, or I'd burn up all my fuel.
Yeah.
And so they stayed with me until we hit the coast.
Okay.
And then I got my guys. We came lower to altitude, so my guy could go in and manually crank it closed.
Okay.
And that's the way we made it back to Saipan.
Okay.
But that wasn't the time where we got low on gas.
That was another.
That was another time. So.
Okay. All right. So you made 30 flights.
Yes.
30 combat missions.
30 complete missions.
Yeah.
I think I had one abort in that time where I had engine troubles and I couldn't make it. But
tell me about your last mission. You guys must have been.
Well, the last mission was kind of a pleasure.
Okay.
Really, to think about it, because we went up to get all of the weather information we could.
That was the 18-hour flight.
Yeah, that was the 18-hour flight, and
so that was kind of a milk run.
We just did everything that we could possibly do to get the weather mission. When we came back, we landed and left our information on Guam.
Right.
Okay, where headquarters were, and then came on back to Saipan from there. But
it must have been a happy crew.
And they met us. Well, one of the things that flying out of Saipan before Iwo was taken, we had I don't know how many air raids where they came down and they destroyed some airplanes. Our ACAC knocked some fighters down, but the Japs were coming in at least twice a week or so.
From Iwo Jima.
From Iwo Jima. Okay. And they wiped out some of our airplanes on the ground 2 or 3 times. So, but we had also, on our takeoffs, we could look across at Tinian. Now, Tinian had another organization.
Yeah, another
and they were carrying landmine or water mines.
Yeah.
And every so often one would go in the drink. Here we are. We're getting ready to take off for Tokyo or somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
And we're looking across, and there's this thing go. Because it's only about 4 miles to 5 miles across the water to the. Well, and their direction was the same way as we were, only we were getting ready to take off. So.
Well, Tinian is where Tibbets took off from.
Yes,
He
that's
was
right.
flying the 506 out of Tinian.
That's right. And
And,
I was gone long by then,
Yeah, yeah.
back in the States. So
Okay. What else do I need to ask you? All right. How many people? 12 people in a
11.
11.
11. We had pilot, airplane commander, and co-pilot.
Yeah.
Flight engineer, okay, who was a very critical guy on,
Right.
and I had one of the best,
Okay.
Leo
Watched all the gauges.
Steinert,
Yeah. They watched all the gauges.
and did a lot of things.
Yeah.
Tap us on the shoulder and wake us up also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then we had a navigator, dual train, bombardier navigator,
Okay.
and a bombardier navigator. We had two.
Two bombers.
One of them was, his principal job was a bombardier. The other's principal job was navigator, but they were both cross-trained,
So they
okay?
could do both. Yeah.
Then you had a radio operator,
Right.
a radar operator,
Right.
tail gunner, CFC, central fire control.
They
I
had
used to
some
think,
kind of a
yeah,
computer
he
thing.
could operate the top turret, the belly turret,
Right.
and the one up front on top.
Oh, yeah.
Now that one on top had 450s.
Okay.
That was right over my head.
Okay.
There was two under the chin,
Right.
two in the tail with the cannon, and they eventually took the cannon out because it used to jam all the time anyway.
Yeah.
And it was extra weight, and we
Yeah.
were trying to get rid of weight.
How did he operate these things? Did he have like a TV set or something?
The central fire control had a dome up on
Yeah.
top. You see the B29, you'll
Yeah.
see that dome.
Yeah.
And he had control of those guns that
Yeah.
he wanted to. All he had to do was take control.
Okay.
Okay.
But how did he see? What was?
He had a bubble.
Oh, he was actually looking at this
Yeah,
stuff
yeah, he could
Okay.
actually see him.
on the top of the plane.
Yeah, they threw their gun sight, okay.
Right. Okay.
But he had a bubble up there,
Okay.
and just like they had two
Yeah.
bubbles
Yeah.
on each side,
Yeah.
and there was the tail gunner had this flat
Yeah.
screen,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And then my guy, my bombardier, who sat,
Right.
or
Yeah.
actually gunner,
Right.
turned out to be, he's the bombardier, but he's also the gunner, and he could operate the two under the chin and the four over the top.
Okay.
Now we've had Tony twin engine go straight at us
Yeah.
at altitude.
Yeah.
He missed us.
Yeah.
We missed him, thank gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we'd have hit him,
Yeah.
we'd have been
Yeah.
smithereens.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the closing rate was probably, 1,000 miles an hour?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, he didn't hit us. You know, the Japs did things like they tried to bomb us
Get above you,
from the
bomb.
air
Yeah.
to bomb the formation.
Yeah.
Uh,
And they were.
and they
hitting
were
planes.
also ramming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've had more than one ram.
Well,
and
you
this-
said you were attacked by a bunch of Japs when your plane, when you got your guns quit and everything. You said you were attacked by a bunch of Japanese fighter planes. How many planes are we talking about here?
Gosh, I don't know. The most I would see would be 3 to 4, something
Yeah,
like
they
that.
were working on you personally.
And we did have they were after the whole formation too.
Okay.
But
Okay.
when we're not firing back,
Yeah, sure,
they could
sure.
tell that. So,
All right.
but the way they attacked us, my first operations officer
Yeah.
got shot down, and I have the whole story of
Yeah.
how they attacked him all the way to the ground.
Yeah.
But they started at 28,000 feet
Yeah.
on him
Yeah.
because he just got hit by a deluge,
Yeah.
and he didn't have any problems up until
Yeah.
no engine problems or anything until they start hitting him, and
Yeah.
so they just really blew him out
All
of
right,
the sky.
So what happened? You fly your 30 missions. Then what happened to you?
Well, when I came home, I was going to go to work for the airline.
Well, you came back to California.
Yeah, came back to California.
Where, San Francisco, or?
Well, I actually Santa Ana is where I was discharged, and that was Santa Ana, where TWA came in and wanted to get 4-engine pilots. Okay.
Oh, well, you flew back. You flew a B-17.
I flew back by trading nice goods to the operations officer in Saipan, and they flew back to Hawaii, okay, where I ate my first lettuce, and that's what I had for meals, was lettuce and milk. Okay.
Oh, yeah?
But anyway, then I had to go by boat.
Okay, took a boat
Back to the